And now with the BBC in question, we're joined by former UK Member of Parliament, George Galloway. So George, in what appears to be a tit for tat, Roskomnadzor, the Russian communication watchdog, says that the BBC has violated compliance of Russian media laws. They say the BBC has worked to discredit RT journalists and the like. Is this a fair assessment?
It's absolutely fair, and the BBC will be hoping that the Russian regulator is rather more fair-minded than the British regulator is turning out to be. RT's disappointment is my anger, because I'm one of the victims of it. I'm one of those found guilty of a lack of impartiality. Imagine, in this sea of mendacity and bias and twisted fake news journalism that is the British media market and much of the media market elsewhere in the world, it's little old me and little old RT, who they are on the one hand telling us virtually nobody watches, but that the state must rip up its protestations over a century of being in favour of free speech.
Now, lots of good points there, George, but the UK's Ofcom also alleges that RT gave unfair coverage. Specifically, they highlight the Skripal case. What's your take on that?
Well, there was a sea of unfair coverage, rushed to judgment, without a scintilla of evidence being adduced to blame not just Russia, but the President of Russia for events that happened in Salisbury in England. Even if the President of Russia had been involved, which I don't believe for a moment that he was, they could not possibly have known that at the moment that the entire British media was reporting that. So if you're going to take the view that everyone has their own point of view, one man's independent journalism is another man's fake news, let 1,000 flowers bloom, that's good. That's one thing. And that's what the British always said they believed in. But if you're going to hunt down opposition voices in the way that Britain always complained that the Russians and the Soviets and many other people around the world did, that just makes you a hypocrite.
Now, George, talk to us a bit about how UK media companies such as the BBC have treated foreign press. Have they historically been very fair, or what's that relationship like?
Well, we working at RT are treated as enemy agents. We're not like in the US, required to register, for no such register exists, but we are referred to throughout as, you know, regime apologists, Kremlin mouthpieces, when RT has exactly the same relationship to the state as the BBC has to the British state, or France 24 has to the French state. And I could go on, believe me. This is part of the anti-Russia misinformation, disinformation industry. And it may turn out, let me give you a scoop, it may turn out that the complaints on which Ofcom have acted came from the so-called Integrity Initiative, the British state-funded PSYOPs aimed at Russia that we have been revealing over the last few weeks. How circular would that be?
Now, last question here for you, George. How free is the press really in the UK? What do you think influences what makes it on air, what makes it to print?
Well, we're nothing like as free as you are. You have in your constitution, we have no constitution, you have rights to freedom of speech. We don't. We are committed notionally to the European Convention on Human Rights, and the right to speak freely is one of those rights. I've no doubt if condign punishment is visited upon us by Ofcom, the regulator, we will be taking recourse to the courts. I don't speak for RT, of course. I'm just a working man in my prime, but as Sir Van Morrison said, but if I were running RT, I'd take this right down the line in every court in this land and all the way to the European courts, because this is unjust, it's unfair, it's unbecoming, it's demeaning to Britain.
Your insights always much appreciated. Thank you so much, George Galloway.
Thank you.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.